Hey guys, we're back here. Thanks for tuning in. Dave Anthony. We've got another case study that I think you will enjoy. I've got a client who called me. They have a net worth of $5 million of investable assets, and they wanted to get a second opinion. They wanted to make sure they were okay and they were on the right track. They've been retired for over 20 years. The husband is in his 70s. He retired at age 50 and is a self-directed investor. I mean, kind of calls his own shots. His wife is a little bit younger than him, age 60. So he's looking at his required minimum distributions. His IRA is about $1 million of net worth. Her IRA is about $2 million of net worth. They have not had to take distributions out of their IRAs yet to fund lifestyle. They only need about $140,000 a year of income. They're getting Social Security. His wife has not started taking Social Security yet. But their question for me was this tax planning dynamic. Once you hit age 72 and your required minimum distributions, it's tricky. And he was running the math on some of the spreadsheets that he'd created and was looking at some pretty significant tax liabilities. And so his question again was, is there something more efficient that I should be doing with my monies? Is there a better way that I can go about doing things and being more efficient? So first off, we wanted to look at the probability of success on this individual if they need $140,000, and we're going to call them the Watsons. Because the Watson is a supercomputer, and this guy is an engineer. He likes spreadsheets. He likes running math on things. So we're going to call him Mr. and Mrs. Watson. So on one end, a $5 million account value on only $140,000 withdrawal a year, they've got a 100% probability of success. And when we look at the ending value, the net worth of their accounts, if he lives to be age 90 and she lives to be age 100, they're going to have an ending net worth of $153 million. So as large as that number sounds, run the math on it. I mean, this is the benefit of compound interest. And over time, larger accounts get larger. Now, granted, they have been invested quite aggressively. So I left their allocations for this case study as 100% large cap growth across all of their accounts, which again, when people retire, we're worried about sequence of return risks and some other dynamics that are there and drawdown risks. So for most folks, we wouldn't keep this allocation in and throughout, but for them and for this presentation, this is what we wanted to do. So the question for me is, Dave, we think we're on the right track, but are there things that we can do more? How can we be more efficient with our money? What strategies, what tools exist out there to help us do that? So that's what we're going to dive into. So the first thing we want to look at is what their current tax liability is expected to be if they continue on the course that they're on. Most investors, you've got three things that we can focus on if we're trying to add value to someone's account. Number one is their investments. Can we get them a higher rate of return with perhaps less risk? Number two, is there a way we can reduce some of the unnecessary fees and expenses and penalties that they're exposed to in retirement? We've got other videos on that. And number three is taxes. What is your current tax liability and how can that be reduced? So here you see that their current tax liability is around $25,000 to $27,000 a year. But as we run through and progress through retirement, notice Mr. Watson, his age is on the left at 78. His wife's age is at 72, is at 67. Majority of these are being caused by required minimum distributions. Notice what happens from this tax liability here between 2031 and 2032, a big jump up. $73,000 in taxes jumps up to $174,000 in taxes, almost $100,000 increase in their tax liability, and this is because of the required minimum distributions that are coming into play with the husband's and the wife's IRA account. So notice initially we've got these required minimum distributions for Mr. Watson. In 2020, there are no distributions because of the CARES Act, but in 2021 that kicks back in, and that's right around 4% on Watson's $4 million account. So he's taking $42,000 a year, $46,000 a year, $51,000 a year. Again, required minimum distributions out of his IRA account. His wife, she's got a $2 million IRA account. If that keeps on growing at that assumed growth rate, when she hits age 72, she's got $272,000 of required minimum distributions combined. That's almost $400,000 of required minimum distributions. So when I added up their tax liability over the next, assuming life expectancy for Mr. Watson to age 90, Mrs. Watson living to age 100, you've got a tax liability of an astonishing $28 million tax liability. This is on required minimum distributions that they're taking out of almost $42 million. Again, let me repeat that again. They're taking out combined required minimum distributions over their lifetime of almost $42 million. So step number one, this is low-hanging fruit. Is there a way that we can reduce their tax liability? And the answer is yes. So let's run the numbers on what a Roth conversion looks like if we're able to Roth convert, again, the husband's $1 million IRA and the wife's $2 million IRA over into Roth IRA accounts. Okay, so when we run these Roth conversion, the husband and the wife, they wanted to get these done in the next 5 years before the 2026 tax increases when the Trump tax laws expire. So we're going to be converting on an initial analysis $250,000 a year for the husband, $500,000 a year for his wife. Let's go up and look at the difference of what that means. Did you see this? Again, the difference between the two it's $23 million. So here the current plan is in green. Their proposed plan is in blue. Just by doing a Roth conversion, getting all of their money converted out over the next 5 years, it saves them it increases their net worth. It increases their net worth by $23 million. And we say, oh my gosh, how is that possible? Well, it's possible because of the money that they're saving in taxes. The monies that they're saving in taxes, they're able to go out and reinvest those monies into their investment accounts. So this is their current effective tax rate. You can tell this is the wrong type of chart that you want in regards to your taxes. Their estimated effective tax rate again is going up, up, and up. And once the wife hits age 72 and her required minimum distributions kick in, they're stuck at an effective tax rate of over 25, 26, 28% all throughout retirement. Versus the proposed plan on doing the Roth conversion, the proposed plan dramatically changes those tax brackets. Yeah, they're in a higher tax bracket for the first couple of years while they're doing these Roth conversions, and then notice what happens to that tax bracket. The effective tax rate, again, I'm not talking about marginal taxes here. I'm talking about the effective tax rate drops down to the sub 5% level. Phenomenal. That's part of that reason why they're getting that large difference in net value. Their ending net worth is increasing by over $20 million because they're keeping their taxes low throughout, and all of the withdrawals that they're taking out of the Roth IRA accounts are then income tax free. So here's their annual tax payments under their current plan, $25,000, $27,000, $29,000, $30,000 a year. It's gradually increasing each and every year. Again, we showed that the dramatic increase once her required minimum distributions kick in by doing the Roth conversions and converting those accounts over to Roth IRAs. Notice what happens to their tax liability here. Fantastic decrease. They're looking at $4,000, $6,000 a year ongoing in taxes. But how much are they paying initially? This is why people shy away from doing traditional Roth conversions, because they're paying $300,000, $600,000, $900,000, $1.2 million, almost $1.5 million they're paying in taxes in the first 5 years. Yes, it's increasing their net worth ending value by over $20 million. But this is a hard pill to swallow. I mean, this is giving up 20 to 25% of their net worth right off of the bat. So the question, again, this is why we do comprehensive retirement income planning. The question at hand is, are there tools, are there strategies, are there techniques that are out there that the Watsons can implement that can reduce this $1.5 million tax liability over the next 5 years? What are those tools, and what does the ending difference make? Let's jump into it. So here's a mock 1040 of their 2020 tax liability after they've implemented some of the tools and the techniques that are out there to reduce their taxable income as they do these comprehensive Roth conversions. Notice a couple of different things on this sheet. Number one, they're converting over $750,000 of income. This is $500,000 of the wife's IRA, $250,000 of the husband's IRA. They're going to be doing this each year for the next 4 or 5 years until 100% of the IRAs are converted over. They've got their Social Security benefits. They've got, dividends and things like that from their investment account. Essentially, their total income is pushing $1 million on doing these Roth conversions. But notice what we've done. We're using some unique tax strategies that is reducing their adjusted gross income almost by 40%, from $981,000 down to $681,000. And they've got a enhanced itemized deduction that we can use on Schedule A of their tax return that's giving them a $400,000 deduction against their adjusted gross income. So this is reducing their taxable income down to $272,000. The total tax that they're then paying, it's not $300,000, it's $48,000. And look what happens as we run through the rest of these years. In 2021, we kind of see again that tax liability, $55,000. In 2022, we see the tax liability. So they're able to dramatically and intuitively convert the same amount of dollars over into their Roth IRA accounts. But the benefit of using this comprehensive integrating planning methodology that we have, that we can show them how they can reduce their adjusted gross income, how they can ultimately reduce their taxable income by applying some of these provisions from the 2017 Jobs Act. This is where the big difference comes into play. And this is where you see the ending difference in their net worth. Again, what was, a very healthy net worth of $153 million now becomes an ending net worth of $217,000. Didn't change the investments at all, just understanding and working with the correct tax planning tools makes a big difference for them. Here's kind of a side-by-side comparison of these options to wrap this up for this couple. Let me get this spreadsheet over here. So a side-by-side comparison is, where did it go? Oh yeah, here we go. So under plan number one, their initial $5 million net worth and $142,000 of inflation-adjusted expenses turns into 153. Geez, must be late. Turns into $153 million is their ending net worth, but they're spending $28 million in taxes. Jeez, let me get this right. Under plan number two, regular Roth conversion, their ending net worth is $177,000. They've spent $1.7 million in taxes. This is what most people balk at, the large upfront tax amount that they don't want to come up with, but using comprehensive integrated planning, we're able to reduce that lifetime tax liability down to $398,000. Again, that's increasing their net worth to $217,000. And these are big numbers. A $28 million reduction in taxes over their lifetime. Again, ending net worth higher by $63 million. Now, in their minds, They are, worried that taxes are going to go up in the future. They're worried about changes that might be coming in 2021. So we are teaching them and educating them about the tools that they can use now while they still can to convert as much money as possible, as quickly as possible, and pay as little in taxes as possible over into Roth IRA accounts again while it's still available to do so under tax law. And this spreadsheet kind of shows the side-by-side comparisons again of their annual tax liability. On your left, not doing a Roth conversion. Once their required minimum distributions ramp up for husband and wife, their taxes really increase here, $100,000 a year. If they do a regular Roth conversion, yeah, they're paying $1.7 million in taxes lifetime over their lifespan. But if they use some of these planning techniques that we teach, able to reduce that by a substantial amount. Again, if you'd like to learn more information or just figure out if you don't have to be a gazillionaire to have these strategies work and apply for you. As long as you've got a net worth of over $1 million, you may be able to qualify for some of these tax mitigation strategies that are out there. If you'd like to learn more information, click the subscribe button below. You'll also find a link where you can get them on my calendar, and we'd be happy to do a conference call to run through these numbers with you.